Come on. And as ever, that is loud in my ear. God damn it. Actually, I'm going to turn it down a little bit here. Ladies and gentlemen, I am actually kind of behind on my rating videos, but believe it or not, I'm actually like completely solid up until like well later. To give you guys kind of an idea here, I'm recording this on the 24th of July. So, yeah. So, X Nordics. Oh boy, this one. Plus 55 to story, and I think it was plus 31 or 36 to gameplay. Yeah, I've got quite a bit to go through. Yes, plus 36 to gameplay. Let me go ahead and say this bluntly. I think this is a fantastic game. Absolutely adore this game. With every fiber of my being, this is an amazing game. Absolutely, highly recommended. I've got some notes, though. Now, what's funny is that you wouldn't expect a story score to be that high, especially considering this is Ys, you know, because the reputation that I kind of view when it comes to Falcom games is you have Trails, which is the big story focus, and then you have Ys, which has got the big gameplay focus. And that is true here to a very large extent. The narrative is not very dense, and Trails usually has pretty dense plots. Like you will have a dense story when it comes to Trails. But with Ys, it's usually just, and here's Adel's next adventure, right? The adventure continues is usually how a Ys game ends, and that is very much the case here. The ending is very much, and the adventure goes on. The literal the end message is the end. I think it's actually to be continued in Adel's next book, because the whole conceit of the franchise, story-wise, is that Adel is reflecting on his adventures. I, of course, have the headcanon that he periodically went back to the Baltic Sea and banged in Karja on a regular basis, but we can get into that when we get into the story. Alright, which is kind of hilarious because if any game in the entirety that I will ever review it would give me an opportunity to make Kirito and Asuna jokes, it's this one. I mean, it practically gift wrapped it with the main characters being voiced by, no joke, Bryce Poppenbrook and Charmy Lay. I'm not even joking. Karja is voiced by Charmy Lay and Adel is voiced by Bryce Poppenbrook. I would argue he does a better job than he did as Agate, but let's not get into that. As a cat tries to distract me. But I've stalled long enough, let's get into it, shall we? Starting with the gameplay story positives. 10 sessions, no cheats. It's Thraxor, or huge shout outs to him. Thank you, Thraxor, for introducing me to this. Now, even though it fell apart at the end, I do still hope he funds more Ys games, because I would absolutely play more Ys. We might even make it an entire marathon, one where I just go through the Ys games. Go back to Ys 1 and 2, maybe do it in timeline orders, because then we can skip this one and then go straight to Memories of Cell Setup. But anyways, I'm getting way off topic. Let's talk about why the story score was so high, shall we? I mean, 55 is not usually very big from me on the story score, especially compared to Trails, but this was definitely higher than I was expecting. Brickwork got 2 positives. It's on point. It's definitely on point, and this tracks because this is the same engine as Trails Through Daybreak. So you basically were expecting that. Also, Falcom standard of sprite work, triple positive. it's on point right from the get-go. And honestly, as I was typing this out, it was just like, yeah, I might as well just call this the Falcom standard rather than the Trail standard. So there you go. Full 3 positives, and I even put an example to kind of illustrate my point. I recognized a random, nameless NPC when I saved her from puppet status, from being a puppet Grieger. Yeah, that should say all it needs to right there. There, I was like, it's that merchant lady. 80. Like, I had that reaction. I was like, oh, hello. And then they gave her a name, obviously. But what's funny is that it was actually a lot harder to spot the important characters in this. Are there characters that are more visually distinct and, are seen as important? Yes, but it's actually way less obvious than you might think. So, kudos there. Due edge usage, 3 positives. I don't think I need to explain that. A lot of these are just like, yep, it's a Falcom game, moving on, Visual storytelling, yep, it ended up getting a triple positive. There's some really good foreshadowing up until the end game, but I'm not going to detract. That doesn't detract from it. I gave 2 positives to the animations, because some of the animations look kind of like, almost like they were growing pains, Like the East team was not actually, as familiar with the Daybreak engine as the Trails team. I could be way off base, I don't know, but yeah. It was still good animation, so it was just 2. It was just, that third just couldn't be given because it wasn't as good as Daybreak. And this came out after Daybreak, therefore, there you go. I liked the adventurous tone, which is pretty important for an East game, I would argue. The world building. Okay, this one I did not expect to give a positive to, admittedly. When I first popped in the game, I was like, yeah, East isn't going to have world building. Need I say more? It's interesting in this game because it eases you into the world, which from what I understand is actually an East staple, since practically every game story is standalone. So they usually kind of set you up in the prologue of, okay, we're going to ease you into the world so you can kind of get a feel for the world, and then the plot's going to show up. It's a very standard trope, especially amongst JRPGs. But hey, a good trope is a good trope. I mean, hell, we spent a little bit of time, with Luke Skywalker, for example, in the original Star Wars, Star Wars: A New Hope, just kind of showing us, the mundanity of Luke's life before the call to action. Granted, they showed a bit of the plot right at the beginning first, because they dovetailed into Luke's stuff, but you get my point, Good use of background lore. I like this point here. I gave a positive for external continuity. Now, I know what you're thinking. What? Blue Wolf, why would you give an external continuity positive to an entry in a series you've never played before? What? Well, Dogi. I got the feeling, just from the way Dogi acted and portrayed, excellent props to Patrick Sates' voice acting, by the way. I got the sense that there was more to it. Like, there was a history between Adol, Dogi, and Dr. Flare. And that was just from experiencing the story. I didn't need them to do like Trails will do sometimes and have a giant exposition dump. Now, granted, that's because, again, nothing from Adol's previous adventures kind of mean anything to this one. But at the same time, that's kind of how I like it. Right? If you're invested and you know the series, it's like, but if you're not, you're like, I should check out the rest of the series. That's how I like it. Take it. In fact, there's probably more than a few touches that Ys fans will probably play this game and go, more so than I ever can, because again, this is my first Ys game right here. So the pacing was good enough for 2 positives. It would have been 3, but then that late game happened. In fact, it was 3 for a while, and it kind of shrunk down to 2 because after Chapter 7, the game's pacing dies in a fire, unfortunately. Gameplay story integration is through the roof. So much so that, yeah, I easily gave it 3 positives. Even though, and what's funny is that I actually gave it the triple positive, and nothing contested me on it for the entire game, because I gave it this triple positive in Chapter 1. Now, to be fair, it's Falcom. I think I know this studio's modus operandi by now. So, because this is the 13th Falcom game I've reviewed. No joke. The 14th is actually going to be the 13th Trails game. So, yeah, I would like to think I can kind of get a feel for the gameplay story integration in a Falcom game, Now, I know that's not indicative. That wouldn't be indicative with, say, a Square game, for example. But Falcom is a much smaller studio, so I think I can get away with saying that, The NPC chatter adds wonderful flavor constantly, so it was easily a triple positive. 2 positives for the humor, because, even early on, I was laughing my ass off. And it was at more than just the whole meta jokes I was making. Like, there was literally a point where I was talking about how I'm excited to buy more Trails games, and there was a character that literally said the next line when I hit the button to advance the dialogue, literally said, we appreciate your business. I think the line literally was, we appreciate your business. And it's like, it's a dumb meta joke, but it's the best kind of dumb meta joke, So yeah, the humor definitely didn't really get to ridiculous out. It wasn't as funny as Trails into Reverie, but this was definitely a funny game, definitely. Which was helped by the triple positive I gave the dialogue and the banter. Excuse me, the dialogue and the banter. Even from the outset, I felt like the dialogue was just awesome all the way through, as was the banter. Active voice. Okay, I don't need to explain active voice, do I? The whole voiceovers that happen while you're on the field? Yeah. Come on. I liked the music direction. I liked the localization. The voice acting is well done, and screw Steve for bitching out voice acting. I'm sorry, I'm gonna keep bitching about it until he stops. Now, granted, this is not surprising because it's Bang Zoom, but still, which is funny because NIS America usually hire actually good talent, even if some of the voice actors, like say ProZD, he piss Steve off, and by extension me, because he won't stop being obnoxious about it. Oh no, ProZD, he is a hypocrite in real life. Who the fuck cares? Anyways. And then voice direction I also get. So voice acting was a triple positive, and voice direction got a positive. 43 presentation positives. Pretty impressive. Now let's get into the characters. Adel, 2 positives. Now, he is mostly silent, but his actions actually speak louder than any dialogue you could get by Bryce Poppenbrook to say. Hey, so, yeah, I actually really liked it. I really liked Adel. He was pretty cool. and is another example of why I want to play the other East games, mostly because Adel is actually kind of awesome, and I would love to follow more adventures with this guy, you know? We mentioned him earlier, but Dogi is a bro, and that is evident right from the get-go. And, by the way, and this is where I mentioned that I have no prior East knowledge. I have 0 prior East knowledge, and yet even just from the way Dogi was acting and talking to Adel, I got the sense that these two were friends, and that was awesome. And he was continued to be a bro the entire time, so he was a triple positive. Speaking of triple positives, Dr. Flare. Here, I love how unflappable he is, and how much he can be the voice of reason without being a prick about it, which is actually really nice. He had this kind of elegant way of kind of getting Adel or whoever to listen to the voice of to listen to the voice of reason, right? Actually, I should acknowledge that. There we go. Sorry, work thing I needed to do. Let's the East music continue to play. We'll get to that later. And I don't want any distractions for speaking about Karja. So Karja is a typical Charmillet role, right? And I mean that as a compliment, okay? Because this is the exact kind of character that a lot of casting directors get Charmillet to portray. I mean, Lucy from Fairy Tail, Asuna from SAO, to a lesser extent, Sita from Fire Emblem, you know, but I mean that as a compliment, right? It may be typical casting, but yeah, when you remind me of Lucy Heartfilia, aka one of my favorite anime pro tags of all time, yeah, I'm gonna give you high praise, because I adore Lucy Heartfilia. She is an amazing character, and holy crap. Yeah. Whoever decided you deserve to die needs to know that they were wrong. And she said that to the equivalent of a god. Yeah. In the first season of Fairy Tail, no less. I mean, I guess the Celestial Spirit King isn't really a god, but whatever. Point is, yeah. The leader of the Celestial Spirits. She literally did that. She literally called them out. Gunnar is interesting as Karja's mentor / break brother. Seems like NES knew what they were doing in casting Jonas Scott as him. What's that? Who's that, you ask? Randy from Trails. Yeah. Okay. Gren is interesting as at first he seemed a little annoying, but his brash nature and idiocy feel more like a character arc, and one that I appreciate the fact it doesn't take the entire game before I start liking him. Realizing you've been a jackass and trying to make up for it is a good way for a character to go from irritating to likable. Just ask Agate from Trails. Even though it took him, although what's funny is that Gren's actually got Agate beat, because I started liking Gren during East 10. It didn't take the sequel for me to like him. for thought. Einar is a fascinating character, as is not only as a Norman that bucks his people's rep, but is constantly shown to be smart throughout the entire game. This is the merchant dude that we meet. He was in that conversation where I mentioned the whole Falcom saying directly to me, "We appreciate your business." I actually really like Einar. He was cool. Lux. I really like Lux and his daughter Sashay. Hey, now, Lux is interesting as a worrywart of a dad, but it never goes into overprotectiveness or irritation. He feels more like the "I'll always worry" type rather than the "everything is out to corrupt my child" type. Like a lot of fiction and real life does. Now, to explain myself a little bit with that, Lux always felt like he was constantly worrying about his child's dreams and stuff because, well, Sashay's a little girl. Well, she's young, like single-digit age. Pretty sure I think they said, like, what? Was it 6 or 8? I don't remember, but Sashay is young, okay? Under 10. And so, of course, Lux is gonna worry about his daughter. But you notice how Lux and Sashay stuck with us the entire adventure? No, seriously, they stuck with us the entire time. The entire time. Lux never turned his back on us, and he had more of a fucking reason to than any of the other Karnak adults. And I mean that sincerely. Props to this man. I gave this man, my Dead Meat inspired award of J Dragoon for best husbando, for a damn reason. Because Lux is the kind of dad I would want to be. Somebody who cares about his child, but will not crush his child's dreams just because it's too dangerous and she might get a scraped knee. He had good reason to worry, but it never turned him into an asshole. And trust me, that is a difficult fucking balance for anybody to make. That's why he's a triple positive. God, I'm actually turning up a little bit. God damn. That's how you know I'm not just talking out of my ass. Tears are literally in my eyes. Nice. Oh my god. Wow. Speaking of which, Sashay. Great example of a child character. Character that is written as if they are a child. Which reminds me of Kia and Shizuku from Trails. Which, again, another compliment, okay? Usually when I say, oh, this reminds me of this other character, it's usually a compliment. And, I mean, we're in the positive, so of course if I'm mentioning another character, I'm meaning it as a compliment. Hugel. Okay, Hugel is interesting because Hugel is characterized without Hugel ever actually talking. Like, Hugel cannot speak human words. And yet I felt like there was actual character and personality in just the way that the cause come out. Think about that for a second, you know? Then there's Logger, who won the Golden Masamune for Best Villain. He's damn entertaining as a villain, and as not only is he smart enough to not, as he put it, risk a fight he may lose, as he put it, risk a fight I may lose, but also is full of himself to want us to continue as he gets to see the most interesting things. He honestly reminds me of Weissman, his son from Trails, in all the right ways. We're just continuing the trend here with these characters. But that's the end of the character positives. No other characters actually felt gave me a sense of I need to give these characters positives. Now let's get into the moments. That entire first pirate sequence in the prologue is actually pretty awesome at characterizing Karja without even giving us her name. That's impressive, Then there's the entire burning of Karnak next sequence. Oh boy. Even with the random divergence to Viewpoint Island, which actually ties into the main story, it is awesome as a shit-hitting the fan moment. And honestly, it hits with all the force it needs to. As you have plenty of time to get to know the townsfolk before it happens. Like the entire that sequence ends chapter 1, and you have the entirety of the first chapter. Now, granted, if you just want to beeline for the main objectives, you can. I encourage you to talk to every NPC. It will make the burning of Karnak impact it all the harder. I also chopped off the intro. Speaking of chapter 1, I cut off the intro at the end of chapter 1. It sets up the stakes and the overall goal brilliantly, and honestly reminds me of some of the better Trails intros, story-wise. So, triple positive. I gave a positive to Gren's acknowledgement that he's been a jackass to that point on Termina Island, as I feel it is a great scene and shows that Gren is not a static character, unlike his dumbass of a father, but we'll get to that in the negatives. The scene where Momina begs to be added to the Sandros crew is a fantastic showcase of Karja's character. That is, who were you again, Momina? I think that was actually the merchant woman I recognized. The one where the sprite work made me go, So, but the reason why I say it shows off Karja's character is she's kind, but she will not coddle you. That is exactly correct. You do not coddle you don't coddle your child. Child listening. You don't coddle people. You encourage them. You help them. The duel that leads to Philia's backstory being told is a good one, as it definitely helps to flesh out the Sea Force some more, graying out the people of Karnak as well. Now, if only we didn't turn them black during Chapter 8, we'd be in a much better position. Again, we'll get there in the negatives. Also, that comedy bit after Rosa runs off is just gold. It was a little weird having her run off, but otherwise, yeah. Falling on Island is an interesting side story that is interesting and has some fascinating lore implications and ends in a heartwarming way. Hey, earned 2 positives, despite the fact that there was the face plant right at the end with Gren's stomach aches being indigestion rather than a Grieger infliction. That was the whole the fruit that turns you into a Grieger Island, that whole storyline. Whew, good stuff. The Easer heart-to-heart. There it is, an awesome scene, and even shows that Karja is not perfect while establishing just how much Karja would be lost without Easer. That was the point where he admits that the only reason he's still with the Balta Sea Force is for Karja. And it's just like if Adol's not getting with Karja, Easer is. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. Einar's business negotiations. Honestly, enough said. There is a scene where Einar is negotiating with a dude, and he refuses because, well, it's basically shoving political claptrap into his business, and he's like, nope. Also, he walked in knowing that. Man, that scene's almost worthy enough for the Culture Mafia to do a video on. I'm kidding, obviously, because their focus is on the Godfather trilogy, but that's beside the point. Dogi's desire to come with Adol and Karja after the Rollo twist is honestly awesome, and it's one of the big reasons I love the guy. Oh yeah, Karja's is a reincarnation of evil. Yeah, no, I'm still sticking with you guys. Fuck that shit. Fucking love you, Dogi. Goddamn. Dogi might actually be my favorite Falcom character now. Okay, maybe not that far, because he's got some steep competition in Trails, but he stands shoulder to shoulder with Yuna and Laura. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. And Olivier. Olivier is pretty high up there too. The whole story from Lila about Rollo is fascinating and puts a lot of things into perspective. Much better twist than the Karja one, and by a landslide. Right. Lux and Sasha staying on the Sandras. I actually, no joke, when I saw that they were on the Sandras after that shit, that fucking garbage with Mayor Clement, which we'll get to later, I was like, oh my god. Like, I literally just had this reaction of just like, I almost wish I could recreate it, because I was like, I was in shock. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. It was like, I was in like utter disbelief of what I was seeing. But it wasn't bad writing. It was literally just, this is a conscious decision they're making. It's like, oh my god, you know? In fact, again, you know, the fact that it's 2 positives is tantamount, is paramount, is, what's the word I'm looking for? Is indicative of that, you know? Then there's the whole Rhea subplot. That's the blind woman that is being protected by a Grieger. It ends how you would expect, but honestly, I kind of like that because it's wonderfully tragic and works for me on every level. And it even has a kind of a bittersweet ending, admittedly, too. And if you earn it, I tend to actually really like bittersweet endings. As much as the latter third of the game has been shitting the bed hard in terms of writing, the whole scene with Karja's mom is just awesome. There's some return to Reeb. That was a nice and heartwarming look into Lila's character. The whole confrontation with Viewpoint Isle's old man, Rollo himself, is perfectly judged. Getting into the outro now. It's perfectly judged as it helps make everything make sense, and is honestly an interesting and clever way to save Karja. That is easily the best scene in the game. I mean, bar none. It's like, we fight Rollo, and that breaks the curse. Fuck yeah. I also really like Rollo's farewell. It's bittersweet in all the best ways. Triple positive for that. I also gave a positive to the epilogue, as it was a nice and wholesome send-off, and the ending also gave a positive. But you'll notice I did not give an outro positive. Well, we gotta get to the negatives for that. 99 story positives. Yeah, that's way more than I thought I was gonna give this game. I was sitting here like, I came close to giving 100 positives to this story, and Ys is not known for its story. Am I just like in love with Falcom or something? I mean, maybe. I mean, that would fit. Anywho, let's get into the negatives. One negative for inconsistent voice acting. It's not really as rampant as it could be, but it's still there. Fake drama runs rampant. Speaking of running rampant, fake drama completely ruins the final third of the game. to the point of getting a triple negative. Then there's also, in the latter half of the game, multiple characters trying to justify alcoholic decisions, assholic decisions, and actions that are just plain wrong and easily seen as such with a tiny amount of actual thought, and it just gets old as fuck. Chapters 8, 9, and 10 are all guilty of this to nauseating lengths, so it was a triple negative. Also, 8, 9, and 10, and as a result of the above, we'll say because of the above empty text, have empty text galore, as so little is conveyed in the tons of dialogue in those 3 chapters. Triple negative. I gave a double negative to Babylon 5 effect, as it is used very poorly here, and honestly makes the story worse the more I think about it. Despite the story, what the story tries to do with the Rolo twist, it still doesn't change the fact that the Rolo twist really fucking ruined the Karja twist specifically. Fucking ruins this. The actual proper Rolo twist, yeah. In fact, I'm actually going to change that to the Karja twist, because that actually is what I'm referring to with that. So, the Karja twist is what I mean by that. So that's it, just 12 presentation negatives. Because again, the negatives didn't start popping up until the final third. That's why there's so few of them. Speaking of very few negatives, I literally have only 2 character negatives, and they're both triples. I'm actually going to flip this and talk about Rome's first. Because Rome's is just as bad as Mayor Clement, although it takes way longer for him to be an issue, but from chapter 8 on, yeah, he really starts pissing me off because of his arrogance and stupidity. But then there's Mayor Clement, who I spoke of how Dogi is in the running for my favorite Falcom character ever. Like, Yuna actually has some competition now. Well, there is nobody in Trails I can think of who would even come close to being the worst Falcom character over Mayor Clement. He is, without a doubt, the stupidest asshole in all of Falcom for me. Yes, I said all of Falcom, which includes Trails. His sentiments are brain dead. They ignore what his son wants. They ignore the accomplishments of the Sandros crew. Ignores reality in the fact that the Balta Sea Force is stretched ridiculously thin for chapter in the earlier bits. It's at the end of chapter 5. And he's also a fucking hypocrite. Yeah, I cannot put into words how much he pisses me off. And there's a moment we'll get to that basically cemented the fact that he would never get, I do not mean any disrespect to his voice actor, but god damn it, what? Oof. Ugh. Then there's the end of chapter 5, which is frankly badly written, in my opinion. First, there's the problem of clutter, as Rafe and Dawson, because you have the Rafe and Dawson stuff, and then you have Gren and Mayor Clement, with only the former getting any proper closure. And then, speaking of Mayor Clement, this is where I discovered he's a fucking arrogant hypocrite, as I discussed above. And there is zero follow-through at the end of the chapter. And then lastly, if there is any follow-through, it's based upon a specific dialogue option. If you don't select a specific dialogue option, you get no follow-up to it, which is just bad programming up to that point. So yeah, that was a triple negative. Then there's Adol's near-death experience in Chapter 7, which honestly I feel is dumb, as all of the tension is destroyed once one realizes that A, this is early in his timeline, B, his age is given multiple times, making the timeline easy to track, and C, and most importantly, the most recent title of the 4th game, Memories of Celceta, has the same name as Adol and Dogi's destination. In other words, all you have to do is remember that Adol is the main protagonist of all the East games, and that's the other thing too. There is no excuse for this because this is East 10, and that is the most recent title of the 4th game. Yeah. Then there's the Karja twist. Alright. So I spent 15 real life hours, like real time hours to stew on this. But yeah, no, I don't really like the twist that Karja is Rollo's descendant. It feels like it comes right the fuck out of nowhere, and the more I think about it, the worse it gets. I honestly feel it wasn't thought out at all, as there are several plot holes that it generates. Like, for example, why did the Grieger take so damn long to notice? And why does being Rollo's descendant suddenly make her able to control the Berserker activation? And so on and so on. Including some story negatives we'll be getting to a bit later. I know this might ruffle some feathers, but I'm sorry, this is the worst plot point in the whole frickin' game and is worth a triple negative. Then there's the flashback. So you remember, then there's the Chapter 9 flashback. So you guys remember, remember how I said Mayor Clement fucking pissed me off and cemented that he will never be dethroned as my most hated fucking Falcom character? Well, here we are. The flashback at the start of Chapter 9 that explains what happened after Adol Karja left with Logger is just no. It's written to be Clement doing the kids a favor, but in my opinion was done poorly. If you have to explain through dialogue what the deal is, especially when it is easily interpreted the other way, then no, I'm sorry, you fail. If Clement had said something like, say, anyone wishing to stay can stay, while anyone wishing to aid the kids is free to do so, would make this scene awesome and speak to Clement's character in a great way. But instead, it's just asinine and stupid, because what he actually says is, these kids are fucking stupid, and we should not associate with them anymore. Grow a fucking brain, Mayor Clement. Seriously, grow a fucking brain. Then, to add to the whole Karja's Rollo thing, Gunnar and Felia come after Adol and Karja instead of helping Grimson kill Ur. Why? No, seriously, this suddenly turns Adol and Karja into the only ones who can beat Ur, and it is stupid, as there are ways around this that no one suggests, and it's all Karja has to die because the plot says so. Not logic. Yeah, it's all Karja must die because the plot says so, not logic. So, yeah, triple negative. Then there's Grimson not backing down after Ur's defeat, making sense right up until he attacks us and reveals that his reason is he is suddenly a blind, paint-thinner guzzling moron who is also an asshole. Oh. He needs to have his wife come back from the grave and tell him to fuck off before he actually does so. Like, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, he even lampshades it by saying, "Yeah, I don't care if you call me the worst dad in the world. I'll own that title because I'm a fucking moron who can't see the blindingly obvious right in front of them." So yeah, that was a triple negative. Then there's the optional scene with Felia boring the Sandros in Chapter 10, which would be heartwarming if it didn't require her being a dipshit to do it. Then there's the quest rushed off of their fleet, which would be awesome if it didn't continue the game's lack of earning it when it comes to me giving any kind of a fuck about Karnak after the shit show that was Chapter 8. So, yeah, no. Triple negative for that. And then honestly, from the end of Chapter 7 to the final boss, writing-wise is just bad, as it's constantly feeling like it wants to think that the people being dumb and or assholic have a point when they do not. Right. I refer you to the Deshinta song. Let's paraphrase a little jingle that Deshinta sung during his review of Mega Ranger, the Sentai that Power Rangers in Space was based off of. Everyone's an asshole even when they shouldn't be. Everyone's an asshole. God damn it, Toei. Anyway, so let's go ahead and paraphrase that, shall we? Well, I find another song. I find the next volume of the East soundtrack, because apparently I ran out. So let's paraphrase this, shall we? Everyone's an asshole. Everyone's a fucking moron, even though they really shouldn't be. Everyone's an asshole. God damn it, Falcom. Doesn't work as well, doesn't roll off the tongue as God damn it, Toei, but you get my point. God, that was... So the late game's writing got a triple negative. And then the outro was also a triple negative. Because as much as I love the ending and the epilogue, the outro suffers from having to wade through a lot of bad writing and bullshit to get to it. Even though it's an admittedly nice conclusion. And honestly, I don't think the ending makes up for it, and thus the outro is a triple negative, bringing us to 44 story negatives. Still pretty impressive. I'm not gonna lie about that. So let's get into the gameplay now. No. Options. So this is actually the game where Raxor actually said, "Oh, you're too harsh on options." And I actually thought about that, and I was like, you know, he's actually right, because I've never given that much of a shit about options, so why the hell shouldn't I be kind to options that are actually really good, like this game? I don't know if the lore runner's going to agree with me on that, although he probably won't, because he'll be playing the PC version, and I'm pretty sure the PC version has way more options. But yeah, no, even for a console which usually lacks options, yeah, 2 positives. Which is funny, because I kind of said that about FF16, didn't I? If we were playing the PC version, triple. But because we're playing the console, double, I think. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. The Save Anywhere system, always love that. Which is apparently a Falcom staple at this point. The music ended up being a triple positive. You've been hearing the music the entire time this video's been going, with the one exception for when I ran out, when Volume 1 was done. But honestly, I found myself just enjoying the music constantly. instantly, and yeah, I ended up giving it a triple positive. It's not surprising because this is Falcom, but still, I was actually shocked at how much I enjoyed the music. You know, I love the map, fantastic with multiple options of what is displayed, and that is a triple positive map in my opinion. Minimap, HUD and interface, all good stuff. Quality of life, all over the place. Including some of the random NPC text being able to be gotten by walking by them. That's cool. The log for rereading and re-listening to dialogue. It is as extensive as Daybreak, therefore it got the triple positive. Although, it also included the random NPC chatter, so, you know, there's that. I may be upping that for some of the other Trails games. We'll see. I'm not promising that, but we'll see. Hey, those audits are actually starting in about a month. So, from my perspective, from your perspective, I want to say, well, going live, they're gonna be in about. When they go live, they'll be it'll be about a couple of weeks, but yeah, before when they start going live. So there's still quite a few streams that are still going, but otherwise, yeah. So from the YouTube perspective, it's probably actually going to be another month or so, you know. But regardless of any of that. Are we still good? We're still good. Okay. God, I've been going for almost an hour and I'm not actually done yet. It's funny. So, interface and bestiary were both positives. Pacing was 2 positives. The late game, again, kind of dragged it down. Core combat. I actually like how it's pretty simple. And this might be the only Falcom game that doesn't get a Viscerality plus, but honestly, despite that, I just really had a lot of fun with the core combat. Mostly thanks to duo mode and the combat animations, as well as the good ally AI, which were all triple positives. Duo mode is honestly kind of just awesome and powerful, and I love it. The combat animations are flashy and cool. Oh, with some of those boss ending animations just being fucking awesome. I freaking love the ally AI in this one. Holy crap. Seriously, did you see how far away that wolf was at the first highway when Karja went and attacked it? It was kind of far. So, yeah. Which is funny because that's actually kind of an in-lore breaking thing, but you know what? I'll let the Cubs kind of expand their range at their leisure for good ally AI, you know. Full heal and level up for the usual reasons. But what's funny is it's also factored into the boss design and exploration, so it ended up getting a triple positive. Probably one of the only times that's going to happen, if I'm honest. Until we audit Reverie, actually. I think Reverie is kind of the one that I should probably give that to. Gameplay story integration, same reasons I mentioned up in the thing. In fact, I'm pretty sure I copy and pasted these positives. So there you go. Fast travel. Civil is stupidly good once you get the ship. No, seriously, you can be in your ship, bring up the map, and fast travel to an island. And oh yes, did I mention it was instant? No? Well, it is, and as such, fast travel is a triple positive. Retry offset for the usual reasons. Being able to use resources other than gold to buy things is actually a really cool concept. I actually really like that. Power progression curve is really damn smooth, and I definitely like it. Make it. The encounter design was good. The difficulty curve was a triple positive. Oh man, it is so nice and smooth. Dude, I love it. This one might take some explanation, because I wrote an entire paragraph to explain why itemization was a triple positive. No, seriously, the level of quality of the itemization here is through the damn roof. There are several games where resource gathering is slow and tedious. Here, though, I never felt the need to grind even for medicine ingredients, and I went through medicine like it was soda, for crying out loud. Game's awesome, I just suck. All this means, and all of that was to mean that it was a triple positive. I never felt like I was running out of medicine. And again, if you paid attention to the stream, like I said in this positive, I was guzzling medicine like it was fucking soda. And I mean that sincerely, you know? And yet the game still accommodated me constantly, and it was like, what? But, like, I literally had to hold off on getting more healing items at times. Like, I could only get so many healing items, and then I had a whole bunch of ingredients to go and make more if I needed them. It's actually crazy. And I did most of the stuff in the game, too. I think there was only, like, a couple of things I didn't end up doing in the end. Actually, I think I still did all of the side quests and shit, now that I'm thinking about it. Huh. Goes to show how good this game was. Good kit in regards to the skills, the monospheres, and the bonuses. Honestly, with how much the skills get better and more varied as you level up, yeah, it was a triple positive. While the late game does kind of fall off with this, I do still think I still stand behind a triple positive for the flow of exploration. The first thing that comes to mind is a spot on Termina Island where there is the way you need to go for story progress, and the environment tells you at a glance that if I go the opposite way, I can get back easily. So, yeah. And I honestly, for so much of the game, I felt myself unable to resist exploring. So yeah, triple positive there. Holy crap. Terrain design also helps with that, so that was a positive. Boss design was a triple positive. It's interesting as every boss feels well thought out and designed. Heck, even the flow of bosses feels well thought out. The back-to-back bosses of Magna Diga and the Puppet Grieger coming to mind immediately, as the Grieger was an easy breather boss. So yeah, triple positive there. That is 63 gameplay presentation positives. Jesus. That's awesome. So now let's get into a few of the moments slash other smaller elements, shall we? Armed Biter here is interesting as the first real boss, is to see if you have gotten used to the mechanics yet. Then there's the Burning of Karnak, even in gameplay, which I felt it was well done. Then there's the intro, which, as I said, is chopped off at the end of Chapter 1. It introduces everything the player needs for the rest of the game, and might just be my favorite intro in all of Falcom gameplay-wise. Yes, Falcom. This has most of the Trails intros beat by a mile. Hell, gameplay-wise. And I mean that sincerely. This was awesome. Ivy is an interesting difficulty spike as the mechanics of the game make him very manageable. Then there's the whole white whale chase, which might not be anything special from a mechanic perspective, and from a mechanic standpoint, but I have said time and time again that simple does not equal bad. And this chase proves it, as it is a spectacular sequence, and is even more involved than, say, a Sonic section of the same type. And as such, yeah, I gave it a triple positive. And then Blob Junon at the end of it and it was a fun boss, this with a nice and amusing ending. Then there's fighting Logger and Reeve, which is in my pick for the best boss fight in the game up to that point. I think I said in the whole game, or did I say the final? Yeah, okay, no, sorry. The final boss is the best in the game, but of the non-final boss fights, this is the best fight. Right. Which is actually kind of ironic that it comes at the end of the absolute worst dungeon in the game, but I digress. As one so bad as the negatives will show, that the awesomeness of this fight, they can't even remotely salvage it. So, the fight itself got a triple positive, but it didn't save the dungeon from being a shit show, in my opinion. But it's fighting Logger and Reeve is still awesome, and oh man, it was so fun. Then there's the Neglevar Nucleus. Let's face it, is just an ad here. This is when you're on that arc. You have to destroy the Neglevar Nucleus, and is kind of interrupting you. I felt it was an interesting fight, and I kind of loved it. And then there's the final boss fight against Rollo and Lila, which is just plain awesome, is the actual best fight in the game, hands down. Epic, properly difficult, and holy crap did I have fun fighting that fight. That was awesome. And that final strike was one hell of a Hyper Beam moment. I had to give that its own positive. Hell yeah. And then New Game Plus is good. Good. Could be better, but you know what? Good New Game Plus is still a plus. Period. 82 gameplay positives. That was awesome. This is an awesome game. Now we've got a few negatives to go through, so let's get to it. The DLC practices. I've bitched about this before. Once NAS America and or Falcom fuck off with this, I'll stop bitching about it. Ship convos can be accidentally skipped, and honestly, it got really annoying to the point of 2 negatives. Not as bad as GTA 4, which still holds the worst in my opinion, but this was still pretty bad. Invisible walls in the 2020s. Unacceptable. I'm sorry. Then there's a weird form of inconsistent voice acting, namely in the adventure reports, as it weirdly throws me off. And it only happens during a gameplay thing, which is weird, and why it's a gameplay negative this time. Originally, this was the only inconsistent voice acting that I was going to give, and then it creeped up in other dialogue, so I was like, damn it, I gotta give it another story. The audio spam was 2 negatives this time. It's not super egregious, but it's still kind of bad. The problem is, by the end, it does become white noise, but still not as bad as it could be. Trust me. Fire Emblem Warriors. Enough said. Which you'll be seeing in 3 rating videos? Yes, 3 rating videos from now. Which is not helped by this being one of the few times where the low health beeping is actually annoying to me. Usually the little low health noise doesn't get to me, but I was kind of hearing it too much, and it was like, ugh. We'll see if I feel that way in any of the Zeldas, but yeah. I actually gave a negative for viscerality. I felt like the viscerality was kind of not there. The no treasure for you crap is here. This is, of course, enemies are around so you can't loot, which sucks. And then there's the late game specific stuff, like how later in the game enemies started dooring status effects. The physics of the late game being kind of wonky. Triple negative for the status effect fetish. Physics was only 1. Then there's the constant knocking you down, so we've got a triple negative for knockback. Heck. Then you combine that with the fact that the gameplay pacing dies in a fire in the late game. Holy crap. And then you further combine that with the awful enemy AI that feels like it's set to coward for the most part in the later areas, as well as some of the later bosses. And it just becomes irritating, and I gave that 2. It doesn't sync to Borderlands 3's lows, hence why it's only 2 for that one. And then there's the late game's encounter design, which just feels like they suddenly ran out of time or budget and zero thought went into it. And the late game also having the most baffling drop-offs in quality I've seen, as from Chapter 8 on, it sucks, whereas the first 7 chapters was amazeballs. So yeah, I basically gave the late, this is a general triple negative to the late game. And I put my foot down and I said, that's it. I'm not giving any more negatives to the late game because I've already given way too many. From 12 to, what is that? 29. I mean, that's 18, I'm pretty sure that's 18 negatives I gave the frickin' late game. Holy crap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, 18. I gave 18 negatives to the freaking late game. God damn. Oof. I didn't like fighting Magna Dega. I felt he was kind of a cheap asshole with high HP, and honestly, he also hits like a freight train, which was kind of annoying. Then there's Belladonna, who was a double negative. I ended up nicknaming her Bitchadonna. And I mean the form, not who it ends up being, by the way. I felt like the boss was cheap and irritating. Could even cancel your skills, which just pissed me off. Then there's the forced stealth section in Ilmer Village, which honestly I think can fuck right off. The reason for it to be a negative at all is the bullcrap fail states that are binary and unfair, which keeps it at what keeps it at 1 negative though is that it is generous as fuck with checkpoints, and the game eventually lets you skip to the second half if you struggle with the first half, and then skip if you struggle with the second half. So there you go. Then there was the ruined city of Reeb, which, yeah, as I mentioned in my praise for the logger boss fight, it's the worst dungeon in the game, hands down, for one solid reason. The encounters, as every single one has a confusion fetish, and the ones that cause it have cheap as fuck attacks and AI patterns. So yeah, I hated that dungeon, triple negative. Then there's Magmel Menanon, which would be a fine boss fight if he'd just stop launching you to the air every 5 seconds. Fucking hated that fight. Then there's the quest to slay the beast's haze. It's frustrating and annoying as it is a swarm of status effect fetishists that can go to hell. Then there's Far Lundheim. Oh boy, where the fuck do I begin with this piece of shit? Let's start with the general negative cluster and get at that out of the way, shall we? Long, boring, worst flow of... Oh yeah, this is the final dungeon, by the way. Worst flow of exploration of the game, especially bad when one considers how amazing it's been up to this point. Confusing navigation, so triple negative there. Then there's specific elements of it that really fucking pissed me off. The shoehorned in puzzle, which requires some more observation than any other puzzle in the game, which is not helped by the navigation puzzle needed to just reach the final dungeon alone, which was 2 negatives. And then there's the addition of additional bits of padding within this dungeon, which warranted one final set of a full 3 negatives, resulting in 46 gameplay negatives. And that's it. Despite all of that bitching, this was still a really good game. It suffers from late game hell worse than probably any game I've ever played. It has the highest amount of whiplash I have ever experienced in a game, and it's weird for me to say that because of just the contrast of it. I like this game, make no mistake. Plus 91 total score is not a bad game. What keeps it out of the art category, though, is that late game. If that late game was just not as much of a was not as bad on both story and gameplay, I would have been like, okay, whatever. And this easily would have gotten in there. But it was, so shrug. That's East 10 Nordics. Highly, highly, highly recommend this game. It's got some bullcrap, but I don't think the experience is as ruined by it. But overall. That's it. So next up on the docket is the revisit block. This is the end of the non-revisit block. Initially, what I was going to do was I was going to be like, oh, hey, you know, go to East 10 and then just flow into the rest of the games. Well, that didn't end up happening because the Trails in the Sky first chapter, aka the Sky 1 remake, is not coming out until the 25th of September, 2 months from now. And I've been spending the past month streaming. I mean, multiple games. You guys will obviously be seeing. There's the Valkyria Chronicles run. There's the Fire Emblem Warriors run. And there, I got the Halo Reach revisit. Steve wants to go through Halo 1, so that's probably you're probably gonna get a Halo 1 rating video before you get any Castlevania ones. And assuming this weekend is when we end up doing that. There's a lot of stuff coming down the docket. I don't know what all is going to be in that docket, but yeah, it'll probably be. Well, actually, I can check my calendar. Give me a second, because this is going live at the end of August, near the end of August, on the 25th of August, to be specific. And then VC1 is going to have its final session go live on the 5th. And then and I obviously haven't recorded the VC1 rating video. That's why that's how I say that. And then the Halo Reach revisit is going live on the 10th. So then you've got another Halo. You got 4 sessions of Fire Emblem Warriors, and you've got at bare minimum probably 4 to 6 sessions of Soten. So yeah, it's probably going to be at least you're probably going to be well into October by the time you see any Sky stuff, any trail stuff again. But regardless, yeah, East 10 Nordics, highly, highly, highly recommended. As long as you're better than my best friend and can ignore the fact that Karja's dad is a hypocrite, both in the game, and in real life with his voice actor. Until next time, this is Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next one.